I posted "My husband's not man enough" online. He saw it and left with "Our savings. I need to tell someone what I did, and you're going to think I'm terrible, but there's something about female friendships that nobody talks about. How they can make you feel so supported one minute and then push you toward the worst decision of your life the next. Everyone thinks Marcus is the villain here because he left me with nothing, but the truth is I'm the one who ruined everything, and the part that makes me sick isn't what you'd expect. If I don't tell the story properly, you'll just see me as another woman who got what she deserved for airing her dirty laundry online. But once you know what I know, once you understand the pressure I was under and what I was really trying to say, you'll see why I posted those words, or at least I hope you will. Because right now my mother won't return my calls, my best friend Jenna has blocked me on everything, and I'm sleeping in my childhood bedroom at 34 years old while my husband, sorry ex-husband, is living in our house with someone new already. I'm going to tell you everything, including the part about the second post I made, the one that only 17 people saw before Marcus's lawyer screenshot it. And the thing that makes me look worst. I'm saving that for when you understand why I was so desperate for validation in the first place. Because this isn't just about one stupid post. It's about 6 years of feeling invisible and a 3-month period where I convinced myself that strangers on the internet understood me better than my own husband. It started at Jenna's birthday dinner in March. There were 8 of us crammed into that booth at Mercado, drinking too much wine and talking too loud the way women do when they haven't had a night out in months. I was sitting between Jenna and her sister Lauren, and the conversation had turned to husbands, which it always did after the 3rd bottle. I swear to God, if Derek leaves one more wet towel on the bed, I'm filing for divorce, Jenna said, and everyone laughed. At least Derek goes to the gym, Lauren added. My Tom has completely let himself go. I showed him a photo from our wedding and he just shrugged. That's when they turned to me. What about Marcus? He's still in good shape, right? I should have just said yes. Marcus ran 4 times a week and still wore the same size jeans as when we met. But I'd had too much wine and there was something about the way they were all looking at me, waiting for me to contribute to this communal therapy session of complaints. He's fine physically, I said. It's just I don't know, sometimes I feel like I'm living with a roommate who occasionally has sex with me out of obligation. The energy at the table shifted. I could feel it. This was different from complaining about towels. What do you mean? Jenna leaned in, and suddenly I had everyone's full attention in a way I hadn't felt in years. It's like he's just going through the motions. Work, home, dinner, TV, sleep, repeat. I tried to get him to take salsa classes with me and he acted like I'd asked him to fly to the moon. Oh honey, Lauren said, putting her hand on mine. That's not okay, you deserve passion, you deserve someone who pursues you. Exactly, Jenna added. My therapist says complacency is a form of disrespect. It's like they think they already won you so they stop trying. I never thought about it that way, but sitting there with all these women nodding sympathetically, it felt true. Marcus had stopped trying. When was the last time he'd surprised me with anything? When was the last time he made me feel desired rather than just tolerated? You should join our group chat, Lauren said. It's called Wine and Vent. We just talk about this stuff, share articles, support each other. It's been really helpful for me. I joined that night, tipsy and feeling understood in a way I hadn't felt in months. And for the first few weeks, it was exactly what Lauren promised. Just women supporting women, sharing funny memes about husbands who couldn't find things in the refrigerator, articles about emotional labor, threads about keeping your identity in marriage. But there was something else happening that I didn't recognize at first. Every complaint I shared was met with an escalating chorus of agreement that felt so validating. When I mentioned that Marcus had forgotten our anniversary, someone responded with, "That's narcissistic behavior." When I said he'd rather watch basketball than go to my work event, someone linked an article about weaponized incompetence and strategic failure. I started seeing Marcus differently. Things that had seemed like normal relationship friction before now looked like red flags. The fact that he was quiet in the mornings wasn't just his personality anymore, it was him, withholding emotional availability. When he said he was too tired for sex, it wasn't because he'd worked a double shift, it was because he wasn't prioritizing my needs. Just when I thought I was gaining clarity about my marriage, Marcus did something that made me question everything. It was a Saturday in late April, and I'd been particularly active in the Wine and Vent chat that week. I'd shared maybe a dozen different complaints about Marcus, all of which were met with supportive responses and advice to know my worth. That morning I woke up to Marcus making breakfast, something he did every Saturday, and instead of feeling grateful I felt annoyed. Because the women in the chat had helped me see that this was the bare minimum and I deserved more than the bare minimum. I was thinking we could go to that new art gallery today, he said, plating scrambled eggs. I know you've been wanting to check it out. I should have been happy. I'd mentioned the gallery once, maybe twice, and he'd remembered. But I was already composing the post in my head for the group chat. He finally wants to do something I'm interested in after I've been complaining for weeks. Too little too late? I have plans with Jenna, I lied. I didn't have plans with Jenna, I just didn't want to give him credit for trying. Oh, okay. He looked disappointed and old me would have felt guilty. New me, the me who'd been learning about emotional manipulation and gaslighting and all the ways women are conditioned to settle, felt nothing. I spent that Saturday at a coffee shop, scrolling through the wine and vent chat and feeling more connected to these women than to my own husband. Someone had posted about leaving her marriage and everyone was congratulating her like she just graduated college. You're so brave, they wrote. You deserve happiness. He never deserved you anyway. I wanted that. Not a divorce necessarily, but that feeling of being celebrated for something. Of being seen as brave and strong instead of just Marcus's wife who worked in HR and had no interesting stories to tell at parties. That's when Jenna posted in the main chat who wants to join the new private forum. It's just for women who are serious about not settling. No judgment, total honesty, real support. I clicked the link immediately. The forum was called The Elevation Collective, and it was beautiful. Clean design, thoughtful categories, women sharing their stories with profile pictures and real names. It felt more legitimate than a group chat, more like a real community. The first post I read was from a woman named Stephanie who just left her husband of 12 years. She detailed all the ways he'd failed her, how small she'd felt, how she'd finally found the courage to choose herself. The comments were filled with praise and encouragement. Women sharing their own stories, comparing notes, building each other up. I spent 4 hours reading that forum, and with each post I felt my marriage shrinking in the rearview mirror, looking more and more like a mistake I needed to correct. That night Marcus tried to initiate sex and I turned him down. Not because I wasn't in the mood, but because the forum had taught me that I shouldn't have to settle for vanilla, uninspired intimacy with someone who doesn't worship you. Someone had actually written that, and it had 63 likes. Is everything okay? Marcus asked. You've seemed distant lately. I'm fine, I said, already reaching for my phone to document this conversation. Just tired. I posted about it in the Elevation Collective under the subject line, does anyone else feel like they're outgrowing their partner? I detailed how Marcus was a good person but not an exciting person, how he was stable but not passionate, how I felt like I was living a beige life when I was meant for Technicolor. The responses came within minutes. You're experiencing spiritual awakening and he's holding you back. This is your intuition telling you something needs to change. Good men are everywhere. Great men are rare, don't settle for good. I stayed up until 2 in the morning reading responses, feeling seen and understood and special. Marcus was asleep next to me, snoring slightly, completely unaware that I was building a case against our marriage with the help of 63 strangers. The next morning, everything felt different. I looked at Marcus and didn't see my husband anymore. I saw an obstacle, a placeholder, a rough draft of what I really deserved. I think we need to talk, I said over coffee. He looked worried immediately. What's wrong? I just feel like we're not growing together anymore, like we're on different paths. Where is this coming from? He set down his mug. Claire, what's going on? I need more, I said, using the exact phrasing someone had suggested in the forum. I need someone who matches my energy, who wants to evolve with me. I don't understand, we were fine last week, did something happen? And here's the thing, I haven't told anyone nothing had happened. That was the problem, our marriage was fine. It was perfectly boringly fine. And I'd been convinced by strangers on the internet that fine was the same as dying slowly. I just think you're not man enough for where I'm heading in life, I said. The words came out before I'd really thought them through. I'd read them in the forum in a post that had been celebrated as radical honesty and speaking your truth without apology. In that context, surrounded by supportive comments, they'd sounded empowering. Coming out of my mouth in my kitchen, watching my husband's face crumple, they sounded cruel. Not man enough, he repeated quietly. What does that even mean? I doubled down instead of backing off. It means I need someone with more ambition, more passion. Someone who takes charge instead of just accepting whatever life gives him. Marcus worked in supply chain management. He made good money, contributed equally to our household, never complained. But he wasn't a CEO or an entrepreneur or whatever fantasy the forum had convinced me I deserved. I take charge, he said, and I could hear hurt mixing with anger in his voice. I'm the one who handled your dad's estate when he died. I'm the one who organized our entire move to this house. I planned our last 3 vacations because you said you were too stressed to research. That's logistics, I said dismissively. I'm talking about emotional leadership, spiritual growth. I was using forum language now, words that sounded profound on screen but hollow in real life. Marcus stared at me like he didn't know who I was. And maybe he didn't, maybe I didn't either. He left for work without kissing me goodbye for the first time in 6 years. I posted about the fight in the Elevation Collective within 10 minutes. The responses were immediate and unanimous. I was brave for speaking my truth. Marcus was showing his true colors by getting defensive. This was the beginning of my transformation. Someone suggested I share my journey on a public platform to help other women going through the same awakening. Your story could change lives, she wrote. Don't hide your light. Just when I thought I'd found my people, everything started to unravel in ways I never saw coming. I created a public Instagram account that afternoon. Nothing connected to my personal profile, just a clean slate called Elevating Claire with a photo of a sunset and a bio that read Choosing Myself, Demanding More, Evolving Beyond Expectations. My first post was long. I detailed my marriage without using Marcus's name, describing him as a good man who wasn't enough man for me. I talked about feeling suffocated by mediocrity, about how women are conditioned to be grateful for basic decency instead of demanding extraordinary love. I ended with I'm done settling. I'm done shrinking. I'm choosing elevation over comfort. The post got 47 likes in the first hour, mostly from women in the Elevation Collective who'd followed the account immediately. Their comments were everything I'd been craving. So proud of you. This resonates so deeply. Your courage is inspiring. I posted twice more that day, once about emotional labor and once about the difference between a man and a boy in an adult body. Each post got more engagement than the last. By the end of the week, I had 300 followers. Marcus noticed I was on my phone more but didn't say anything. We were barely speaking anyway. He'd started sleeping in the guest room after another fight where I'd accused him of weaponizing his silence, when really he was just trying to avoid saying something he'd regret. The forum loved this development. He's punishing you for having boundaries, one woman wrote. Classic manipulation tactic, said another. Nobody suggested that maybe I was the problem. Nobody asked if I'd considered therapy or couples counseling, or just having an honest conversation about what I was actually feeling. It was easier to believe I was the hero of a transformation story than the villain of a marriage falling apart for no good reason. My posts got more specific. I shared screenshots of text conversations with identifying information blurred out. Marcus asking what I wanted for dinner became evidence of his inability to take initiative. Marcus saying he was too tired to go out became proof he was holding me back from living my best life. A husband's not man enough to handle a woman who knows her worth. I posted on a Tuesday in May. It got 200 likes and was shared 4 times. I didn't think about the fact that Marcus and I had mutual friends on social media. I didn't think about the fact that my main account had my full name, and my married name was unusual enough that anyone could find me with minimal effort. I was too high on validation to think about consequences. Jenna texted me that night, "Are you okay? Some of your posts are getting pretty intense." "I'm better than okay," I wrote back. "I'm finally being honest about my life instead of pretending everything is perfect. Maybe dial it back a little. People are starting to talk. Let them talk. I'm not going to silence myself to make other people comfortable anymore." I screenshot the exchange and posted it in the Elevation Collective. The responses were predictable. Jenna was threatened by my growth. Real friends support your evolution. She's showing you who she really is. But here's what I didn't know. Jenna had been friends with Marcus before she was friends with me. They'd worked together years ago and she'd introduced us at a company picnic. And while she'd been supportive of my complaints in the wine and vent chat, watching me publicly humiliate her friend was a different story. She sent the Instagram account to Marcus. I didn't know about this until 3 days later. I just posted another long caption about how settling for a comfortable man is choosing a slow death over a vibrant life when Marcus came home early from work. "We need to talk," he said, and his voice was different, flat, decided. "I'm actually in the middle of something," I said, still typing a response to a comment. "Put down your fucking phone, Claire." I looked up. He never swore at me. In 6 years, maybe twice, and never with that tone. "Someone sent me your Instagram account," he said. "The one where you've been telling 300 strangers that I'm not man enough for you." My stomach dropped. "Marcus, it's not what you think. It's just me processing my feelings." "Processing your feelings would be talking to me or going to therapy. This is humiliation. This is you building a case against me in public while I'm at work thinking we're going through a rough patch." "I needed support," I said. "I needed people who understood what I was going through." "What you're going through? What exactly are you going through, Claire? Because from where I'm standing, you're going through a completely stable marriage with someone who loves you, and you've decided that's not good enough because some internet strangers told you to want more." "It's not about them," I said, but we both knew it was a lie. "Show me your phone." "What? No. Show me your phone right now or I'm leaving." My hands were shaking as I unlocked it. I showed him the Instagram account, watched his face as he scrolled through weeks of posts that painted him as inadequate, boring, emotionally stunted. Then he clicked on the forum link in my bio. "What is this?" "It's just a support group for women." He spent 20 minutes reading the Elevation Collective while I sat there feeling like a child caught cheating on a test. When he finally looked up, his eyes were red. "You told 63 strangers that I'm not man enough before you told me you were unhappy," he said. "You shared screenshots of our private conversations. You took advice from people who don't know me, don't know us, and used it to justify treating me like shit for 2 months." "I was trying to figure out what I needed," I said weakly. "You needed to feel special," he said. "You needed to be the star of some transformation story, and I was the convenient villain." Do you even hear yourself in these posts? This isn't you, Claire. This is some character you created to get likes from strangers. You don't understand, I started, but he cut me off. You're right. I don't understand how the woman I married turned into someone who would publicly humiliate me and call it empowerment. He left that night, packed a bag, and went to his brother's place. I immediately posted in the Elevation Collective, looking for support, looking for someone to tell me I wasn't the bad guy here. The responses were split for the first time. Half the women rallied around me, saying Marcus was being controlling by demanding to see my phone, that I had a right to my own private spaces. But a few voices I hadn't heard before said things like, maybe he has a point, and public posts about your spouse are different from private venting. One woman named Patricia wrote, I've been reading your posts for a week now, and I have to ask, what has this man actually done wrong? Because from everything you've shared, it sounds like he's just guilty of being normal. I blocked Patricia immediately. Then I made another Instagram post about how even in women's spaces the patriarchy shows up to defend mediocre men. That post got less engagement than usual, and the comments that did come were different. This seems excessive. Maybe take some time offline. Have you considered that you might be wrong? Been online long enough to know what was happening. The algorithm was starting to show my posts to people outside my echo chamber. People who didn't know the full story, who didn't understand the nuance, who were determined to misunderstand me. At least that's what I told myself. Marcus didn't come home the next day or the day after that. He texted once, I need space to think. Please respect that. I didn't respect it. I called 17 times, sent 43 texts, showed up at his brother's apartment twice. Each rejection felt like proof that he'd never really loved me, that I'd been right to question the marriage, that the forum was right about everything. I posted about this too, about how men will claim to love you until you challenge them to do better and then they abandon you. That post went viral, not viral in a good way. Viral into this showed up on a Reddit thread about toxic femininity kind of way. Someone had screenshot my post along with several others, connected them to my real identity, found Marcus's LinkedIn, and created an entire thread about woman publicly destroys marriage for internet clout. Within 24 hours, I had people I'd never met calling me a narcissist, a sociopath, a cautionary tale. Someone found my work email and sent a message to my boss with screenshots. My mother called crying because someone had tagged her on Facebook in a post about my mental breakdown. I made my Instagram private immediately, but the damage was viral now. Screenshots live forever, and that's when I did the worst thing. The thing I still can't believe I was capable of doing. Instead of apologizing, instead of taking accountability, I made a second post on the forum claiming that Marcus had been emotionally abusive all along. That I'd minimized it in my earlier posts to protect him, but the real reason I needed to leave was because he'd been gaslighting me for years. It wasn't true. None of it was true. But I was cornered and desperate and convinced that if I could just make people understand that I was the victim here, everything would be okay. 17 people saw that post before Marcus's lawyer screenshot it for the divorce filing. The lawyer sent me a cease and desist about the abuse allegations. If I didn't publicly retract them and admit I'd fabricated the claims, they'd pursue defamation charges. They had 6 years of text messages, emails, and social media posts that painted a very different picture of our marriage. They had witnesses prepared to testify about my behavior. They had the forum posts where I detailed my exact thought process in creating a false narrative. I deleted everything. The Instagram account, my forum membership, every post in every group chat. But it was too late. Jenna stopped speaking to me when she found out about the abuse allegations. You're not the person I thought you were, was all she said. Lauren and the other women from Wine and Vent distanced themselves too. Nobody wants to be associated with someone who makes false abuse claims for sympathy. The Elevation Collective disbanded a week later. Too much negative attention. Too many journalists asking questions about what kind of community encourages this behavior. The moderators made a statement about how I'd acted alone, how my actions didn't represent their values, how they'd always advocated for honest communication. I wanted to scream at them that they'd created me, that every post I'd made was just a reflection of what they'd taught me to think. But I was alone now, and screaming into the void doesn't change anything. The divorce was fast. Marcus didn't want to drag it out, didn't want to keep me in his life any longer than necessary. I didn't fight it because I had no ground to stand on. My lawyer advised me that given the documentation of my online activity and the retracted abuse allegations, I was lucky Marcus wasn't pursuing more aggressive damages. We split everything 50-50, except for one thing, the savings account. The joint account that we'd been building for 6 years, that had $43,000 in it earmarked for a down payment on a bigger house. Marcus's lawyer argued that my actions had caused him significant emotional distress, damaged his reputation at work, and required him to seek therapy. They provided medical bills and a letter from his therapist. They showed social media posts from his coworkers who'd seen my Instagram before I deleted it, messages from his family members who'd been harassed by strangers online. The judge agreed that my behavior constituted financial harm and awarded Marcus the full savings account as compensation. I signed the papers in a conference room that smelled like burnt coffee and watched my marriage end in 17 minutes. That was 4 months ago. I'm living with my mother now because I can't afford rent on my own until I rebuild my savings. She doesn't ask many questions, which I'm grateful for, but I can see the disappointment every time she looks at me. Her daughter, who had a good husband and a good life and blew it up for reasons she still doesn't understand. Work is awkward. My boss never said anything directly about the screenshots that were sent, but I was quietly removed from the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. No explanation given. Everyone's polite to me, but I'm not invited to happy hours anymore. I'm not included in the group texts. I'm the HR person nobody wants to share personal information with because who knows what I might post about it online. I drive past my old house sometimes. Marcus still lives there with his new girlfriend. I know because Jenna posted a photo from their housewarming party. Just casual, her and her husband smiling with Marcus and a blonde woman I don't recognize. The caption was something generic about good friends and new beginnings. I wasn't invited, obviously. I'm not invited anywhere anymore. The worst part isn't the money or the marriage or even the loneliness. It's knowing that I did this to myself, that I took a perfectly good life and destroyed it because strangers on the internet made me feel special for a few weeks. I think about that a lot. How easy it was to get addicted to the validation. How every like felt like proof that I was right, that I was brave, that I was finally living authentically. How I mistook attention for truth and agreement for wisdom. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I just talked to Marcus that first night after Jenna's birthday dinner. If I'd come home and said, I'm feeling disconnected and I don't know why, can we work on this together? Maybe we would have gone to couples therapy. Maybe we would have reconnected. Maybe I'd still be living in my house with my husband instead of in my childhood bedroom with a Pinterest board of quotes about second chances. But I didn't do that. I chose the forum over my marriage. I chose the validation of strangers over the vulnerability of honest communication. And now I'm here. I still scroll Instagram sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep. I look at accounts like the one I used to have, women posting about choosing themselves and demanding more and not settling. And I want to comment on every single one. I want to ask them if they've actually tried talking to their partners. I want to warn them that the high of being celebrated for burning your life down is temporary, but the consequences are permanent. But I don't comment, because I know how they'd respond. They'd say I'm projecting, that I'm bitter, that I'm threatened by women who have the courage to want more. They'd say exactly what I would have said 4 months ago. There's no redemption arc here. No lesson learned that makes everything okay. I destroyed my marriage and my friendships and my reputation because I wanted to feel special, and now I just feel empty. My therapist asks me every week what I was really looking for in those forums, what void I was trying to fill with the validation of strangers. And I still don't have a good answer except that it felt good to be celebrated for something, even if that something was publicly destroying the person who loved me. She asks if I've reached out to Marcus to apologize. Really apologize, not the corporate non-apology I issued when his lawyer threatened legal action. I haven't. What would I even say? Sorry I called you not man enough in front of 300 people. Sorry I made up abuse allegations when I got caught. Sorry I valued the opinions of internet strangers over 6 years of you showing up for me every single day. Sorry doesn't fix this. Nothing fixes this. I saw him at the grocery store last week. He was with the blonde woman, laughing about something while they picked out produce. He looked happy, lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. When he used to look at me even toward the end, there was always this shadow of concern in his eyes, like he was constantly trying to figure out what he'd done wrong. He doesn't have that shadow anymore. He saw me in the cereal aisle and his smile disappeared. For a second we just looked at each other. I thought about saying something, but what was there to say? He turned his cart around and walked the other direction, and his girlfriend didn't even ask why. That's what I am now. Someone people avoid in the grocery store. Someone whose own mother won't leave her alone in the house because she's worried about what I might post online. Someone who destroyed a good thing because good wasn't good enough. The forums are still out there, different names but same content. Women supporting women, they say, empowering each other to demand more. And maybe for some people they're helpful. Maybe some women are actually in bad relationships and need that push to leave. Maybe some of the advice is sound. But I wasn't in a bad relationship. I was in a normal one that required work and communication and vulnerability. And instead of doing that work, I outsourced my emotional processing to people who didn't know me and didn't have to live with the consequences of their advice. I'm writing this now because I need someone to know the truth. The real truth, not the sanitized version I told the judge or the defensive version I told my mother. I need someone to know that I did this. Not Marcus, not the internet, not society's expectations of women. Me. I took a good man and convinced myself he wasn't good enough because strangers told me I deserved extraordinary, and I was too caught up in the performance of transformation to realize I already had something worth keeping. And when he left, when he finally had enough of being treated like an obstacle to my self-actualization, I didn't choose accountability. I chose to become the victim of my own story. I made up lies to protect the narrative I'd built, and those lies cost me everything I had left. The title of this story says my husband left with our savings. That's technically true, but it's not the whole truth. The whole truth is that I handed him the justification to take them. I created the evidence. I built the case against myself post by post, lie by lie, until there was nothing left to argue about. So yes, I'm the woman who posted that her husband wasn't man enough. I'm the woman who lost everything because she needed validation more than she needed her marriage. I'm the woman who still, even now, has to fight the urge to post this whole story somewhere public just to see if anyone will tell me I'm not as terrible as I know I am. And the worst part. Some days I still wonder if I was right. If Marcus really was holding me back from some better version of myself that would have emerged if I just had the courage to leave. That's how deep the programming goes. Even after everything, part of me still wants to believe that the forum was right, that I was right, that this was all just a painful but necessary step toward becoming who I'm meant to be. But then I think about Marcus laughing in the grocery store, and I know the truth. He's becoming who he's meant to be. And I'm still here, sleeping in my childhood bedroom, wondering if 300 likes was really worth $43,000, and the only person who knew me well enough to stay through the boring parts. I don't know if I'm telling this story as a warning or a confession, or just a desperate attempt to make sense of how I got here. Maybe all three. Maybe none of it matters because the damage is done and I have to live with it either way. What I do know is this: if you're reading this and you're in those forums, if you're posting about your partner in those groups, if you're building a case against your relationship in front of strangers who will never have to face the consequences of their advice, please just talk to your person first. Have the hard conversation. Go to therapy. Do the uncomfortable work of being honest about what you need. Because the alternative is waking up one day in your childhood bedroom, scrolling through your ex-husband's Instagram, wondering if the comments section was really worth more than the life you had. And trust me when I tell you it wasn't.